And of course, you are still tuned in to Hope Alive radio station. This is Mind Your Business with myself, Trevor Kamoto. It is top of the hour, 8 p.m. And of course, we are getting ready for our interview with Miss Lungi and of course, do interact with us on the socials. We are live on Facebook. It's Hope Alive radio station, as well as Mind Your Business with Trevor Kamoto. Do like and interact with us on the pages. And of course, on Twitter, we are there as well. It's Hope Alive _radio, and our WhatsApp line is 0671531089. And of course, if you would have any questions for our guest interview this evening, do remember to interact with us, and of course use that also powerful hashtag Mind Your Business, hashtag Hope Alive Radio. And of course, this is Hope Alive radio station, and we are shaping minds for a better future. And of course, this evening we are joined in studio by Miss Lungi Hlachwayo. Good evening, ma'am.
Trevor.
Good evening, ma'am.
How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. And how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having me this evening.
Thank you very much for making time to join us this evening. You are welcome on Mind Your Business. Are you comfortable?
I'm very comfortable. I'm in heels, by the way, for people who can't see me. And people would know I'm most comfortable in my heels.
You are climbing up the corporate ladder in heels.
Yes, climbing in general, everything.
Thank you very much. She is climbing up the corporate ladder in heels. You are most welcome on Mind Your Business. You are most welcome on Hope Alive radio stations. And of course, we do shape minds for a better future on this station. And that is why we've brought you here this evening to help us shape the minds of our listeners for business empowerment and all things entrepreneurship. For somebody sitting at home this evening who's saying, I am listening to Hope Alive radio station, I am tuned in to Mind Your Business, who is Lungi Hlachwayo?
Right, so my name is Lungi Hlachwayo. I am the founder of the Greeen Coaching Network. I am an entrepreneur. I'm an innovation program manager and strategist. I'm a mother, I'm a friend, I'm a coach. I'm a partner, I am a sister, I'm a daughter. Ooh, there's so much to me.
Hey, there are so many titles there.
Yeah, but in large and for the purpose of being here today, I am a green coach. I am referred to, and I come as one carrying a whole lot more faces that are part of the Green Coaching Network.
Yeah.
And we are a network of professional business coaches, and we basically partner with our clients to help in the process and the progression of their businesses.
Yeah. Wow. So you are a green coach. What is a green coach, by the way? Because, you know, when most people think about the term green, you know, the term green is used a lot in the recycling space. And actually, earlier on, we were speaking to one of our 5 minutes of fame candidates, and they are in the recycling space. So, you know, to us mere mortals or us normal human beings, you know, when we hear the word green, we are thinking something related to recycling or any of the above. So can you school us on that concept, please?
Which might very well be. But
I'm not far off the mark.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. So I don't think anybody's ever asked me this, but you know, it took me so long to get the name right at some point. And then at some point it hit me, and I was just like, green is everything that you have worked with.
Yeah.
You think about a fertilizing process when you're working with grass or with soil or with a seed. You just put it in soil and you water it and you wait for it to come up, to grow and to look healthy, you know, and to look good and fertile and to carry the right sort of fruits. So when we speak, I think for me, the concept around green was what we can do to be in a healthier state, to be in a more appealing state so that we can, you know, produce better results. And we are the green coaches because that's what we go through. We deal with people that have just planted in soils, you know, just have ideas, and we're trying to work them through right up until they're at a point where their businesses look very fertile.
So the green term is very prophetic.
All right.
Hey, Mr. Producer, there is something about green today. The other guy had greener pastures. The lady's now a green coach and she's wearing a green top. Hey, we didn't get the memo, Chief. Why didn't you ask me to bring a green top?
Taking Psalms 23 muna practically. He lives beside the green.
You know, the pastures are very green for these individuals, eh? So as a business coach, ma'am, I mean, just to break it down for the people who are listening to us this evening, how exactly would you define entrepreneurship?
So in the normal terms, entrepreneurship is a way in which somebody takes an idea and makes profits out of it.
Yeah.
Right. So you have this great or not so great idea and you're hoping to make money out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really true because the ideas are in the execution.
Yeah.
And the execution then gives you the fruits and the products. So an entrepreneur for me starts as somebody that has an idea,
Yeah.
but doesn't just sit on it, moves to a point of executing it and starts to see actual results.
So they put action to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So basically, you're saying that putting action into it somehow distinguishes the idealist from an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And
So-
I think that goes without saying.
So until you do something, you are just a dreamer.
Yeah, no, we can't call you an entrepreneur and you are just like, hey, I had this idea. And then you don't actually do anything about it. Because ultimately, obviously, what we want to see is money, right?
Yeah.
So there's a big difference in us just being busy and us actually being productive,
Yeah.
but also more so solving a problem, right? Because entrepreneurship is solution oriented, which is
Definitely.
where coaches come in.
Ah.
We believe in that you as a resource, you as a person, you as an expert in your industry
Yeah.
are solution oriented. So you deal with a lot of obstacles in your business, but you are solution orientated.
Yeah.
And in the very beginning, when you started, you were trying to solve a problem. Or you could not have been trying to solve an actual problem. You could have just been selling something, still have a problem, which is that you need to put bread on your table.
Yeah.
You need to make money. So it's about the end result,
And you are solving the problem.
solving the problem.
Awesome stuff, man. We are, of course, lounging this evening with Miss Lungi and who is an entrepreneur as well as the founder of the Greeen Coaching Network. She is going to tell us, of course, at a later stage, how exactly is it that they work, what it is that they work with, and all of that. So, yeah, of course, do stay tuned in, rather. This is Mind Your Business with myself, Trevor Kamoto. And do, of course, remember to interact with us on all socials. On Facebook, we are Hope Alive Radio Station. It's Hope Alive _radio on Twitter. And on WhatsApp, it's 067-153-1089. And, of course, this is Hope Alive Radio Station. But before we get into the gist of the matter, our guest had a special request of a song. She said that this is the song that she gets up to on every morning. This is a song that helps her to get out there and bust those goals and chase those dreams and make those visions a reality. So before we get deeper into who she is and what she does, we are going to get into that song. It is Andra Day with Rise Up. Give it to us, sir.
But I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Ooh.
And you are still tuned in to Mind Your Business with myself, Trevor Kamoto, and this is, of course, Hope Alive Radio Station, and that was Rise Up with Andra Day. What a song.
All right.
So that song was specifically chosen for us by our guest. We try and make them feel at home and feel welcome as much as possible. Tell us a bit about that song. Why did you choose it and why that one specifically?
Well, I'll rise 1,000 times or more.
Powerful.
I'll rise countless times if I have to. But okay, I think it's thinking about the kind of year we went through last year. I think everybody had different challenges.
Hectic stuff, eh?
Right, yeah. And in retrospect, actually, when I looked at this song this year,
Yeah.
I looked back at last year and I thought, oh, wow. I just kept rising. And whether we like it or not, we went through difficult things, but we kept coming up. And we still do come up. And I think I just appreciate knowing that every day that I am, and I will continue to do so. So it's very close to my heart. Every morning before I go out for my run, this is the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say to people that the spiritual element of business people is one of the most pivotal and most important elements of anything. A lot happens out there. You win, you lose, you get stuck, you keep going. And I mean, the faith element of it all, I mean, you need a certain element of insanity, and people would actually consider that to be insanity. But in the depths of it all, it's all about faithing it forward. And how has that been or how has that worked out in your life or in your business? How has that faith element helped you through it all? I mean, like you just mentioned with the advent of whatever happened last year. I mean, 2020 was 2020 was something else for a whole lot of people. Like we were discussing earlier on with my producer, that a lot of people lost their jobs, companies closed down, and a whole lot of things happened even to the economy and to the livelihoods of people. But how exactly did you stay afloat during that time?
Yeah. Look, in terms of spirituality, I think the heart of God must be an entrepreneur somewhere there, right? Because I believe that God is such a visionary.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
so he was right from in the beginning he created, right?
Yeah.
Type of a thing. So I connect very closely spiritually. I mean, when I say I rise up, I fall back directly onto God. But I've got a really intense story over what happened between myself, God, and the business in 2020. So I was fully within my corporate job when I decided to jump into fully fledged running my business. And I think everybody knows that this is the most difficult, time when you're trying to figure out, should I, shouldn't I, shouldn't I, shouldn't. But based on knowing what my vision was, that time just came and I was just like, well, I'm going. This is what I want. This is what I want to do. And that was February, just before Corona came out.
Hey, just by the eve of lockdown.
Just by the eve. Just at that time, I'm serving notice, and then it's just like, hey, everything is changing, and it was a question of, are you sure? Are you not sure? Are you sure? And I had no doubt. Yeah. I had no doubt I was doing the right thing. I had no doubt that I was supported in the decision that I was making spiritually by my father. And I knew and I got to see it. It was the most incredible thing, because I think that time when I had just jumped off was the time when I really got to build my brand as a business. Wow. And I must say that's probably the time that we stayed most afloat, because people will know if you're dedicated to your corporate work and you're running the hustle on the side, your attention is very diverted. I had a beautiful, almost good 4 months before, I got dedicated into other projects that just allowed me to drill deeper. So when people are talking about re-strategizing, oh my God, there's COVID. Oh my God, nobody wants to see anybody. I can't do nothing. We were at that time where we were deep diving on who we are and finding our place in the chaos, and it was just so aligned. So I think for me, we just managed to deep dive, which is something that I must say a lot of entrepreneurs probably don't get the chance to do, because you're so rushing, you're desperate, you want to get that, and that this needs to go, and you need to start seeing productivity, and you need to start seeing money. But this was a planned period of time where I had said, I am going in and I'm building an empire. And I did just that.
All in the midst of turmoil.
All in the midst of turmoil and perfect timing.
That is definitely an epic story. And I mean, one of the questions we always grapple with from our listeners and from all the people we interact with is, how exactly did you know that it was the perfect time? We've got a number of listeners who are still committed to their 9-to-5s and who still keep the side hustles. They're running a business on the side after hours and on the weekend. And one of the questions we encounter on a weekly basis is, how do I know if it's time? How do I know if it's time? And here you are, having done that. Run us through that for a while.
So that's a really hard question. It's hard and easy, and I say this as I was talking to somebody yesterday about it. It's hard and easy at the same time, because the only thing that's probably stopping you most of the time are your fears, right? So we've learned what security looks like. By the way, that landscape has completely changed now, right? Security probably does not look like you having as much of not dealing with your fears. Literally, security has changed. But when you either deal with your fears and say, I know that I'm ready to do this, and I'm ready to deal with what's on the other side, it just becomes a little bit easier, because I think that becomes the main word. You've got so many questions around your security. You've got what ifs. You've got how am I going to survive? You've got but what about next month? The money for the rent. Also, I haven't been saving. The installment. There are so many questions. They are valid questions. You probably want to prepare yourself a bit more. but you'll never be prepared more than when you get to that moment. And I'll tell you about a moment for me.
Yeah.
I said the other day, you should surrender until you can surrender no more. And I think I got to that moment for me where it just hit me. I had been conceptualizing this idea so much.
Yeah.
And one day it just hit me. I was like, you're ready. And nobody could stop me at that point. And I think when you're intentional and you're clear about the picture, which is another very big thing.
Yeah.
When you're clear about what you want, it's easier for you to get there. You can see the path, right? You can see the route. You know what you want. It's just a matter of you then deciding that I'm going to jump over. It is a matter, I know people want to be realistic. It is a matter of making sure that things are slightly in control. You know, there's a lot of spirituality that comes into play.
Definitely.
Always, you know, into how that works out over time and when you know that it's a good time now.
Yeah. And I think, of course, along the lines of what you're saying, that's also wherein the importance of visions come in. And I believe your coaching network covers a lot of that. But I think we will obviously get into that quite a bit later in our interview for our listeners to know how exactly it is. Yeah, you guys have taken the concept of visions and vision boarding and commercialized it into something else. But yeah, I think just as I said, it is something we are going to get into a bit later. And of course, I think with all our listeners who are tuned in right now, they're understanding exactly how it is that they can make that jump. Because, you know, I mean, when you are coming from a background of comfort and knowing that on a particular day you are going to get access to that sort of, or that amount of money, you are going to cover those bills and so forth. But like you're saying, quite rightly, I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic has changed all of that.
Yeah.
You know, you've got industries that you never even thought would shut down that are closing down. You've got companies you never even thought that company would close. I mean, retail brands have shut down. Car manufacturers have shut down. Both GM have gone back to the US. You know, you've got both Edcon or what's that other one that had Edgar's? You've got them being sold off and closing down. I mean, who would have thought?
Right.
You know, I mean, there's somebody sitting out there saying, yeah, but Lungile, you don't understand me. Ish, you know my bills, man. Yeah, I can run my business on the side and still do this. And you know my business, but my job still gets me through. And I mean, that element of fear, like you say, once you've got everything planned out and mapped out, what else is there to do? I mean, what else is there left to do?
Yeah. It's a huge deal because the landscape of opportunities, the landscape of security has really changed.
Yeah.
In the workforce space, in the entrepreneurial space. And I tend to just think, 4IR, what were we thinking? What were we talking about? You know?
Yeah. You know, I think especially with the years of 2019, early 2020, you know, you had a lot of these seminars and conferences about 4IR, you know, especially from our government. You know, the fourth industrial revolution is coming up. But nobody really understood what exactly is it we were talking about. In 2020, I was like, here
I am,
hello,
ready or not.
I'm back. Me, I'm 4IR. It was here, and here is reality, Satan. It came back, and it was just one of those things in there, and people were forced to adjust. I mean, it was one of actually the most funny experiences when you were watching government officials make or have meetings. I mean, in between themselves, one of them, the camera's looking at the roof, the other one, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And that is exactly what it alluded to the new normal, because that is exactly what that is. And I can assume that also affected business very adversely.
It did. I mean, I can imagine now we're being forced to look at things very differently.
Yeah.
And no one could have anticipated that it would come in this way. I mean, when people were thinking about jobs and digital transformation and robotics coming into play, they just said, "Oh my God, I'm not gonna have a job."
Yeah.
But nothing like what it looks like now, in a sense that how you operate as a business. If you don't have digital footprint and you're under lockdown, you were just like, where's website?
Yeah.
You know, where do I put a brand and say I exist and I'm here and I can still somehow, you know, communicate with you? So the landscape changed drastically in a view of that whole security thing. So I think we could learn a lesson of when you think you're safe. You know, there was a buzzword that came through that was be agile. You know, hlala ngathi umile. Asikho sure. Left or right. You know?
Yeah.
You know, it's just about really being flexible. So
Yeah.
we could learn that the idea of thinking that your one way of security and provision is everything and will always be is something that is a mentality that we need to change completely. So I think that definitely came into play. It came through a pandemic, but it was also 4IR.
Yeah.
And funny enough, we just got to 5IR. That's good. Next time.
Yeah. I mean, you've got people still getting to grips with 4IR. Next thing, there's 5IR. Why is this thing behaving like iPhones? Once you get one, there's another one already coming out. Like, can people even get the hang of this thing? Can people just get a moment to breathe?
Yeah, look, I think we might have missed a lot in the air as well.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of discussions that have been happening about the future state of skills, something I'm very passionate about in the Green Coaching Network, we generally are.
Yeah.
On coaching around the future state of skills, the skills that are really being developed. So apparently, 10 years from now, we are having skills in the corporate space, even in the entrepreneurial space, or job titles that don't even exist right now. So that's the kind of revolution that is going on.
Yeah.
What have we been listening to?
Or who have we been listening to? Yeah.
Or who have we been listening to? But somehow, in the air, we haven't been paying as much attention, and maybe it could be the resistance.
Yeah.
You know, when there was a conversation that's been going on for probably the last
longest
4
of
years.
time, yes.
World Economic Forum has already discovered the 10 or top 10 skills at least that are right now in the landscape of business that can actually guarantee you a little bit more security. But have we been aware of that, or have we been in our comfort zones?
Yeah.
Right, the ones where we're not ready to jump because there's never it's not the right time, but there's never going to be, the right time.
Yeah. I mean, this is all so much to take in for our listeners. And I think just before we get into the next track, I think we also need to address these issues, because there is somebody who is sitting out there and thinking, but now here's Lungile talking about a transformed world, they're talking about a changed world, but now how do I prepare myself for that world? Or most importantly, how do I prepare my kids? I mean, people are finishing school and going into varsity. What exactly is it that you study? What is it that you prepare for? But most importantly, how do you prepare yourself for a world that is ever changing?
That is quite a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot to think about. I mean, if I think of right now, recently I heard that almost 40%, it might be a percentage a bit less than this, of students between grade 12 and grade 10 did not return to school because they developed entrepreneurship ideas while there was so much volatility at school, right?
Yeah.
So you think about it and you're like, so these children were surviving or creating survival for themselves and for their homes.
Yeah.
And now they somewhat don't see school as an actual dire need.
Yeah.
Which is really crazy. It's not something we want to necessarily say, let's adopt that people don't.
I mean, education is key.
Education is very much key. But then you think about it and you think about how people learn, what people learn becomes very important, and a critical part of then determining what do I do with my life after the education as we know it.
Yeah. Actually, what you are saying actually reminds me of one of the business management 101 textbooks, particularly when it speaks about the concept of business planning. I heard actually one business advisor saying that is one of the most obsolete documents ever, because how do you forecast something you haven't experienced? So, I mean, here you are sitting with a business plan. You've got your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. Chief, you don't even know what the threats there are because you haven't even started the business. But here you are having to plan for these things. So it's I think it somewhat fits into what we're discussing about, because it's important to realize we were actually operating in a new world with a very old and ancient mentality.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think we are getting a mouthful tonight. I hope you, the listener out there, are taking it all in. Because we are shocked. There's so much to consider. There's robotics, there's artificial intelligence, there's 4IR, there's 5IR. Yeah, very soon we'll be hearing about 6IR. But Yeah, I think we will give you some time to take a breather, stretch, get some water, turn those pages on those notebooks. And of course, we will refill our guest glass because, we do take care of our guests right here on Mind Your Business because, of course, it is part of minding our own business. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Mind Your Business with myself, Trevor Kamoto. And we are, of course, still sitting right here with Ms. Lungi Hlachwaya from the Greeen Coaching Network. Mr. Producer, the playlist tonight, sir. You're doing the most, eh? Yeah, but there you did get some assistance. So yeah, we that also was a selection from our guest. That is, of course, Beyonce with Bigger. Somebody's sitting at home and thinking, Christian radio station, they are playing Beyonce. Yo, I'm going to call the radio station tomorrow morning. I'm going to complain. How dare they play Beyonce? How dare they play Beyonce? And that was Beyonce with Bigger. Hey, those are some very powerful lyrics to that song as well, hey?
Absolutely. You're something way, way bigger. Way, way bigger.
Even in the entrepreneurial scope.
Yeah. You're a part of something way bigger. And I think there's a part where she says, you're part of the living word.
Yeah.
You're part of the so let's not be too judgmental about some of these things. Sometimes they speak to your soul. The song really works for me. It definitely reaffirms me every day how much I'm part of something much bigger than I can even comprehend.
It says you're part of something bigger. And of course, that is you're part of the entrepreneurship ecosystem in the scope or in the landscape rather of South Africa. And what would you say actually is the status of entrepreneurship in this country? For example, we've got one of our very own Elon Musk who's doing the most out in the US. And I often find myself asking, hey, if this guy had stayed in Benoni, would he have achieved any of the things, or in Pretoria rather, would he have achieved any of the things that he achieved?
Yeah, and considering he's South African, right?
Exactly.
South African, yeah. Look, environment has a lot to do with it, but I have the thinking that we have quite a dynamic landscape of entrepreneurs right now.
Yeah.
Particularly with the youth that we have. And they might not have the right sort of confidence injected.
Yeah.
Maybe not enough support. And I believe a couple of things are being tried out. I mean, I remember going to Alexandra to the Innovation Hub, which is a small center that supports business people.
Supposed to support business people.
Oh, wow.
I'm just asking. It's a question.
It could be true.
It's a question.
Supposed to.
Yeah.
You're actually quite right, but I won't go more into that.
Yeah.
So the environments do matter. But I believe that right now we're very dynamic and we're very disruptive. And I'm not sure how many entrepreneurs realize that in the change of everything, we as entrepreneurs and SMEs are probably in a much better space than the big corporates. We more agile. We are able to change around a lot of things around more than big corporates can do in terms of their investments, their shareholders, that are there. But the landscape is changing in a sense that there's an involvement now. The World Economic Forum is also talking about stakeholder investments. So let's not just talk about the investors and the shareholders. Let's talk about the stakeholders. The stakeholders are the SMEs and they are the entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs are the ones that are going to be building the economy more right now. In fact, 10 years from now, I think it could be 2025, I think. There's a forecast of big businesses buying small to medium enterprises. So being dynamic and being disruptive right now, you have to think about your future state of who could accumulate this business for me 10 years from now. And I think we're quite into the flow. Young people are into the flow of technology and digitally getting things done. There's a whole lot of ideas that have come up since the pandemic.
From young people initially.
Yeah.
And now how do we now work on transforming that culture that we have? Because ideally we aren't really into entrepreneurship as much as we should be, because that is where a large bulk of the job creation or the economic empowerment will come from people. Because if you are looking at the advent of companies closing down, big businesses shutting down, obviously the future of the economic impact will be in the creation of jobs from entrepreneurs. Now the question is, how do we change that culture? Because even with kids who, or school kids who just come out of the system, it is always go to school, get a degree, get a job, go to school, get a degree, get a job. But now how do we change that culture? Because that is exactly one of the shifts that we need in order to impact that culture, because unless we think differently, we aren't exactly going to get the results that we want.
Yeah, it's very tricky, and it's very broad. So my understanding of what's happening right now with a lot of the big corporates is that they are transitioning, especially financially. So the CFO has become the very, very important space, right?
Yeah.
How can you save money? Get rid of these people that are costing us money.
Yeah.
And then you get things like your Section 189, where you're getting people being cut off. And then from CFO, it goes to an HR office where HR is saying, what skills do we really need here? Right? Who do we have? How do we change what they do so that they can do what is efficient and exactly what we need for productivity, because we're trying to cut down.
Yeah.
Now, when you come out of that corporate space and you become an individual that now doesn't have a choice but to be an entrepreneur, it's not always that easy. We understand the obstacles that are there and the time that it's going to take you to be able to build up. What I always say is people need to go back and gather who they are. So for all these years, we've been carrying different titles, having different certifications, and possibly never even operating within those skills, right? Go back and understand what your future state of skill looks like again, right? What is this short course that I must do that will just, because it's a shift of a title. That's what's happening really in the corporate landscape. You've got a change of a title that is saying you don't even need an MBA sometimes. It's not going to take you an MBA. It's going to take you taking the right level of certification to make yourself relevant.
It's a short course.
Right. It certifies, you know, it could be 6 months, it could be 12 months, but you need to understand again where you're going. And then there's the difference of entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship.
Yes,
right?
there we go.
Right. So now you become this person that is, because I know my skill, I can go inside the ecosystem of a corporate and survive there for a while. Right. Because I know what skill I can offer, and I know that I'm certified to do it. But your mentality has changed. You need to stay with me. Your mentality has changed from employee to intrapreneurship.
Come on.
Intrapreneurship is an entrepreneur inside the workplace.
Within the ecosystem of the company.
So you're getting supported now by this corporate that can afford you on the basis that you are not permanent. You are somewhat consulting. You are just giving them the skills that you know you can give them.
You are an outsource, basically.
You're an outsource. You're a contractor. You're the thing that everybody's been so afraid of. But you are more secure now than you would have been when they say, actually, you are a liability. You know, we have to cut you off, and then we get you on a Section 189 as a retrenchment process, right? So there's all of these things to consider when you come out of the corporate landscape, which is something that we're used to. What skill do I have that I can still offer, and how can I survive within the ecosystem of a corporate environment? And if all I have is an entrepreneur, then what is it that I can do that can give me something, maybe let's say as soon as possible, while I build on a bigger vision?
I mean, the skills are there, the expertise and the know-how, as well as the networks are there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Producer, we are chilling with the coach indeed, eh? And I mean, we are obviously getting introduced to some new terms, because I know a lot of people are very well versed with the term entrepreneurship. Not a lot of people are very versed with the term intrapreneurship, and I think a lot of business material like covering that, but not a lot of times when you come across people who discuss those concepts and how they actually impact the lives of ordinary people right there on the streets, man.
It has actually become such a big thing that I feel we need to start talking about a little bit more, because it's about being able to sell yourself as a brand and yourself as an individual. And maybe someone out there has had a small business where they were they were just paying like 6 people. But now during the COVID pandemic, or maybe just last year, they had to cut these people off. So who do you represent yourself as when you're a brand?
Yeah.
And you have to sell yourself. That's very important in an entrepreneur. You might not be able to be an entourage, right? You're just starting off.
Yeah.
So if you have to sell yourself to an opportunity and in a place where you can survive, that becomes you taking on a mentality of an entrepreneurship. So you are inside the space that gives you the infrastructure. You've got so many benefits when you're in there.
Yeah.
But because your mindset is that of an entrepreneur already, you get there and you let me give an example and say you see your manager as your client.
Yeah.
Right? You service, you provide the service, you do what you need to do, you get paid for it.
Yeah.
You position yourself for opportunities because you understand the time in which you have to provide the service, right? So it's sort of it's a change of mentality. And by the way, this is what coaches do.
Yeah.
We take you through a transformational process just so that we can change your state of mind. It's then being able to think about, how do I survive now as an entrepreneur, rather than just an entrepreneur who performs alone in his own space without the support of bigger spaces, companies.
So it's all about a mental shift, basically.
A lot to do with it. A lot to do with it.
Wow. Yeah, we are certainly learning so much this evening. I think even I myself am getting some shift in mentality or
Already?
shift in thoughts, So yeah, I think even our listeners are fast running out of pages in their notebooks, Yeah, I think that's actually one of the best things about getting a coach in the house to come and coach on these issues. And I think it is about time that we get a breather. I mean, so much is being said. We need to take it all in. And yeah, we will be back shortly after this. And of course, it's 10 minutes to the hour 9. It is 10 to 9. And we are still joined in studio by Ms. Lungi from the Greeen Coaching Network. And you are still tuned in to Mind Your Business with myself, Trevor Kamoto. And this is, of course, Hope Alive radio station. And we are shaping minds for a better future. And that, of course, was DJ Shimza with Faith. Hey, yeah, we are very... Yeah, we are very versatile with our playlist this evening, and people are thinking, hey, what's happening here? But yeah, so the song basically says, just have faith. In all that you do, just have faith. I think before we get into our next question, would you like to touch on that topic just for a few seconds for me on the aspect of having faith and spirituality? I saw you were bumping to that song. Clearly, a lot of thoughts were going in your mind there.
Well, I didn't know it was Shimza.
Yes. Well, now you do. We are here to shape your mind for a better future. Now you know.
Now I understand that the name of the song is Faith. No, I think so. I think we were just talking during the break about spirituality as a whole, and I think I can't stress more how much I do believe that God is a visionary, and I meet him at that point, and I've found that God meets me at that point, where in every milestone in my life, he constantly is taking me to the vision, the one that I'm very clear of. And I think for me personally, I just live on the fact that I am created in love and in the image of God.
Come on.
And then there's just certain things that I believe that I have, to the benefit of me. I should live my life like in all of its abundance. And I can imagine it as big as I want to, and none of it is impossible. And I've been able to experience that personally, and it's been such a different thing, because talk of faith is something that is spoken about in church, and we get used to hearing about it, but we never really get to experience it. And when you have your own experience with it, it just becomes so much more valuable to you. You can take it with you everywhere you go. It becomes so alive. And so one of the things for me that have really worked for me was going by scripture of Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 2, which is, write it down, put it on a board, and it will come to pass. And it says, I think the Bible says, after a while, it will come to pass without any fail. And I can't tell you how true I've seen that to be. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolute love and support from God that if you trust me to say the imaginable,
Yeah.
the unimaginable to
Yeah.
me, I will show you.
Yeah, you know, I mean, with you just saying that, you know, you're bringing a lot of scriptures into my head, but definitely one of them that does stand out is the one in the book of 3rd John where it says, "Beloved, I pray that thou mayest prosper."
Yeah.
You know, because that's
Even
one
as
thing.
I.
That's one thing people need to understand. Which literally, God wants us to prosper, guys. Even if we step out in business or in entrepreneurship or at work or anything we do, when we mind our business, God wants us to prosper. But obviously, with that said, it also says that put the vision plain so that all who can see it may run with it. And that is obviously another topic I'd like us to touch on before the security guys tell us our time is up. You know, part of the exercises that you as the Greeen coaches get into is what we call vision boarding exercises. Run us through that quickly. What is it that you guys do with vision boards, and how do you enable your clients or your entrepreneurs to thrive on vision boards?
All right. So vision boarding is one of the services that we offer amongst a couple of services. So we do digital transformation, we do lean in discussion, and then we do individual and SME and corporate sort of coaching.
Yeah.
And then we've got vision boarding, which is probably our most interactive sort of service, where ideally our clients are usually your corporates, your SMEs, and your entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But when we go into vision boarding, we actually want to deal with you as an individual. And the approach comes from one of our coaching approaches, which is called a V growth model.
Okay.
Now, it's a V-grow, right? You can grow, but you can't grow without the vision. So we don't know where you are growing to.
What are you growing?
Where are you going? You know,
Yeah.
so we've got an approach that's called the V growth that's used generally quite a lot by a lot of coaches. And I remember thinking to myself, there's a period in coaching where you try to understand from the person what is it that you're trying to achieve in the bigger scheme of things. And one of the hardest things you can ask a person is, what do you want? You know, the nature of coaching is transformation, but also getting you to your peak performance through powerful questions. So a question like, what do you want, is something that a person's like, yeah, ish. You know,
You're not too sure.
I'm not clear about what I want. Number one, I'm afraid of articulating it. So there's a couple of obstacles that are within that. Can I say it? Can I say what it feels like? Can I put down what it looks like? And when it comes, can I recognize it? Right? Those are things we often take for granted.
Yeah.
And so what we have done with the coaches, we had a session last year, Visualize 2020.
Yeah.
In fact, as a whole, it's called Vision 2020 and beyond.
Yeah.
So we thank God, very prophetically so, as the Greeen Coaching Network.
Yes, ma'am.
Did not know about COVID, but we were so prepared because we saw beyond 2020. And so the event as a whole is called 2020 and beyond. Last year for 2020, we had a vision boarding session called Visualize 2020.
Yeah.
And this year we've got Daring 2021.
Come on.
And we invite you to dare it really with your spirit, with your mind. We want to take you to a peak performance mindset. That is what coaching is.
Yeah.
We want to intrigue you so that you don't just sit there and think, yeah, well, maybe I want this, but it's not your peak. You haven't gotten to the highest part of your imagination. So we talk about goals. We talk about what your realities look like. We talk about your opportunities. We question your way forward. It's quite a long coaching environment that we create just so that we can, at the end of that session, come out with a fully fledged vision board. So that by the time we deal with the little obstacles in between our coaching, we know exactly what you're trying to achieve. And we can help you with that.
This is definitely a holistic approach to coaching.
Yeah.
Yo, now as I am probably sitting at home with my business idea, or even with my business that is slightly maybe still limping off the ground and etc., how do I get to be a part of this vision boarding exercises?
Right. So in light of COVID, we have tried to accommodate as much as we can to everybody. We are going to be running vision boarding sessions between February and March. We've got like 4 dates that are available for people to choose from on a virtual or a physical option of being a part of a vision board. So certain people might want to be a part of a virtual vision boarding. So we're obviously not in the same room to comply for safety
Yeah,
to
definitely.
COVID, and you come out with a digital vision board. So that's the one that you can keep on your phone, keep on your laptop. You can actually get to print it out eventually as well, put it up somewhere, because it's very important for you to be able to see your vision board. So we've got those virtual sessions that are on the 13th of February. We have our first one this weekend. And again, on the 13th of March, we've got a virtual one. Then we've got the physical vision boarding, which is very similar to what we did last year. We're getting into a room, we're applying some coaching, working with the mindset to get you at a peak performance rate by the time you're doing your vision board, and you come out with your physical vision board. So the only limitations we've applied now is that we're limiting the booking to 10 people only, just to ensure that there's enough social distancing, compliance, and safety. And we're having that on the 27th of February and then on the 27th of March as well. So we've really tried to split it out. Yeah, this is something we would usually do in a day. We've got a website where you can go in and register. You can even select a date, actually, and let us know if you have a particular date, but we have those dates set up. The website is www.vision2020andbeyond.co.za. And you can contact us. There's also a lot of information on there. There's information on our last event, so you get an idea of what the vision board would look like, of what the kind of experience that you have. You've got access to our coaches on that website. And yeah, you get all the information. You can even contact us through that website.
Wow. And that's it, folks. I believe you got all that information down. So you can also be a part of those vision boarding exercises, and you can, of course, take your business and your life in general to that next level. And do allow us to shape your mind for a better future as you equip yourself for that next level, that next step, that next dimension of your life. Now, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Are we done already?
Yeah, it is time to actually pack up and go before we get kicked out. But fortunately, curfew has been altered, so we won't be in any sort of trouble. We thank you very much for joining us this evening and giving us all of your insights. I do certainly believe that many of our listeners will be out there on the World Wide Web, searching, of course, for the Greeen Coaching Network in order to get a hold of you guys, to get info or to get all that insight into all that you guys do and how, of course, you can help them with your business, or with their businesses rather. We thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you. It was so good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Only a pleasure. And that's it, folks, from our interview or from our interaction with Ms. Lungi from the Greeen Coaching Network. And of course, do get in contact with them so you can get those insights, those tips, and all those empowerment tips to how you can take your business to that next level. And remember that if it's not on a vision that it's plain for you to see, what is it that you are working towards, Chief? And of course, I am Trevor Kamoto, and this is Mind Your Business on Hope Alive radio station. We are, of course, shaping minds for a better future. Do remember to interact with us on all socials. That's Hope Alive radio station on Facebook, Hope Alive _radio on Twitter. And of course, it's Mind Your Business with Trevor Kamoto on our Facebook page. And do interact with us. And of course, from myself and my lovely producer, Mr. Opa, it is a good night, and do have yourself a great evening, because this is all about greatness. Minding your business. Signing out.